Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to have a chance to talk to you today. I'm sorry that I can't be with you in person, but I wanted to at least share some thoughts and words and give you an idea of what's been happening and what we expect to happen in the near future with our businesses. So when we created our the strategy to build an ocean health corporation, many thoughts and ideas and inspirations went into that. The inspiration of the unique ownership of Sea Alaska and the heritage of its people subsisting from the oceans around Southeast Alaska for thousands of years was certainly a huge part of it. The inspiration for other people around the world who have either a similar relationship with the ocean or have worked with vigor to try and get us as a species to think deeply and practically and imaginatively about how we have to shift our relationship with the ocean and the entire planet. All these inspirations fed into our thinking and fed into how we reimagined the company that we could build. And they've continued to stick with us as we've been on that journey and continue to build that company. And in essence, really nothing has really changed. And just to share what some of those broad ideas are, it's in essence the idea that and there's nothing special about the date, it's just something to shoot for and something that's necessary because we have to change. But by the middle of the 21st century, we'll be in a fundamentally different place. And that's, we believe, going to be driven by people all over the planet working together. And hence why we chose the name Wuqin for our business units. But we have to come together as a species. The divides around nationality, China versus America, India versus China, who burns the most coal, these things are just distractions, ultimately. The truth is we have to come together as a species. We have to eliminate our bias. We have to forget what separates us. We have to remember what unites us, which is we all come from the same place. Probably Africa 150,000 years ago, but we all come from that place. And that's a product of 2 billion years of evolution on a planet that's 6 billion years old. We're a very young species, maybe the first species to have a conscious mind, maybe the first species to be aware that one day we will die and carry that thought in our head every day. So we have to dig deeper into what holds us together as a species again. And there's a lot of wisdom I've picked up from talking to especially David Katzik and others who are Tlingit and were lucky enough to be brought up in traditional history about how they think about their role in the world, their duty to carry their culture forward, how their ancestors are watching. I think there's wisdom there. And these ideas that inspired us have the same kind of essence behind them, that we have to think more deeply about who we are as a species, forget the divides, forget how we're divided by political leaders, by national interests, and remember the thing that unites us, which is that we're part of this beautiful planet and we need to figure out how to make sure we're part of this planet in a way that's good for the planet. We're not adverse to it, we're part of it. It makes no sense to have a relationship with our planet that's hurting it when we're part of it. We can't separate us from the planet that we live on, or indeed the oceans that are 2/3 of our planet. So these are the ideas that went behind it. And to talk in a bit more detail, our vision is that by the middle of the century, we will be consuming from our planet at the rate at which it can replenish those resources. Today, we consume as a species 3 times more than the planet's able to produce. That's obviously not sustainable. And the truth is, parts of the world and parts of the people that live in the world, there's a distribution there. It's not an average. There's countries that consume way more than that. And the United States, unsurprisingly, is one of them, consuming about 7 times more than per capita than the planet is able to produce. If everyone consumed at that level, we'd need 7 planets, not 1, to sustain us. And unfortunately, we only have 1. And talk of moving to Mars is nonsense. And it's a way of avoiding the very problem that we all need to have the courage to face. So we have a vision that by 2050, we'll be consuming at the rate that the planet's able to replenish those resources, that our energy will be clean, that up to 50% of our energy will come from our oceans. That we'll be using our oceans in a healthy, intelligent way, rather than the dumping ground. We'll be increasing the food we get from our oceans so as to take pressure off our land. We will be restoring the wilderness that has been lost around the world. I know that's an uncomfortable word for indigenous people. I don't mean it like that. And I know that, people have been subsisting and working in harmony with nature. And that's what we mean, where there have always been people. But the parts of the world that, where there weren't people and they weren't habitable, that should be restored to pure wilderness. In 300 years, we've lost half of the world's wilderness, mostly to agriculture and to grow plants to feed animals. There's 80 billion farm animals on the planet, 10 times as many animals as there are people. 95% of the fauna, the animal life on the planet, is humans and the animals they keep. That should be 5%, not 95%. We have to restore that. We have to restore that wilderness. We have to take pressure off our land. We have to put energy into using 2/3 of the planet, which is our oceans, to feed ourselves in a way that means that we're using those oceans wisely. We're feeding ourselves from them, but that's about living from them in a healthy way that hopefully means that we'll care about them more and therefore ensure that they're able to meet that productivity. If we fish wisely, as you know better than anyone from thousands of years, we're able to feed ourselves without destroying those fisheries. If we figure out how to use seaweed, we're able to do that without destroying those fisheries. It's one of the most productive forms of sustenance on the planet. And that's something we have to start to figure out how to make happen en masse. So our vision is to increase consumption from our oceans by a factor of 5 over those 30 years, to clean up all the legacy energy, to ensure that everyone on the planet has fresh, clean drinking water. That's probably only about 60% of people right now, which is unacceptable. So we have to redistribute capabilities. The developed world has to lead the way on this. It can't be pointing the finger at India and China and other places. It has to take the lead. It has to have the courage to lead. And this will come from people. It's not going to come from political leaders. It never has. Any healthy change, whether it's civil rights or votes for women, it's never come from political leaders. Political leaders are followers who have been forced to act because people are uniting and working together, and they're demanding better representation. That's what we believe in. What does that mean for Sea Alaska? We've built, and we've been building what we call an ocean health platform. We've been building businesses that we think can be part of this change, and part of it in a humble way. But there's very few platforms like this that exist, so we're excited about where it's going. It's taken some time to build these platforms, but today we have a vibrant seafood business that's consumer-led. Our strategy is to lead the way in getting people to eat and consume more seafood so we can reduce the pressure on our land resources. Seafood is up to 50 times more efficient to eat with respect to its impact on the planet by virtue of reduced carbon footprint and reduced freshwater consumption. Literally, every time you eat seafood rather than beef, it's making 50 times less of an impact on the planet. So getting people to eat more seafood is essential, and that it reduces pressure on land and reduces the footprint, and it's also good for people's hearts and souls. So building a consumer-led seafood business that champions increased seafood consumption in the developed world in particular is a key part of our strategy to help with ocean health. And our sister businesses are around ocean sciences. We're working on building the leading geosciences company in the world. We're working on building a global company that's able to characterize what's going on in our oceans and pave the way for clean energy, largely offshore wind and wave energy, which is particularly pertinent and important to rural communities that can't justify an offshore wind investment. That technology is evolving, but it requires understanding the ocean in order to put that technology and infrastructure into the ocean without damaging it. And that's what our businesses do and increasingly do. By virtue of entering this brave new world where we have to reinvent how we interact with each other, with our oceans and with our planet, those businesses are set for huge growth over the medium and long term. As I said, we believe that seafood consumption per capita can increase by a factor of 5. That's a huge amount of growth that we can feel good about because it's necessary. And similarly with offshore wind is a fraction of 1% of the world's energy right now. It could easily, in some countries, be all of the energy produced, such as Denmark, and maybe even Ireland. Some of the smaller countries in Europe are looking to supply all their energy from offshore wind. In the developed world in general, it could easily be between 30 and 50%. That's going to be a revolution. And within one generation, the biggest shift in our energy resources and our interaction with our oceans in human history. This is a huge opportunity, not just to do the right thing, but also for CL Asper and its shareholders to benefit from being part of this reinvention of how we work with each other and how we work with our planet. So I'm really proud of all the people that have been leading these efforts, and I'm really proud of all the people that have joined us, either to work with us, to be acquired by us, or to join our management team. It's been a fast evolving story, and I believe it's truly in harmony with the spirit and culture and history of all the people that own us. So I wish you a wonderful meeting and a wonderful summer, and I'm grateful for the time to share a few words with you, and I hope we can get together soon. Thank you.